Welcome to the Marvy Woods Football Academy podcast. In this season, I'm going to be speaking to academy managers from the Premier League, Championship, League One, League Two, and some Scottish clubs. As an academy parent myself, I want to bring some insight into how these academies are being run. I find that it's easy to approach coaches. I hear from players, ex-players, and parents on many platforms about their experiences in academies. But I do not hear from academy managers. This is why I want to do this season. If you think first team managers have playing staff of 18 to 25, whereas academy managers have a playing staff of over 100. That could be from the under 9s to the under 18s. These are people who are so powerful, but they just seem like these men in grey suits or women in grey suits that you just never get to hear from. So what I want to do is I want to bring to you, the listener, what they think, what they want to sign, and what they are looking for in these academies. So if you like this episode, don't just watch and keep it to yourself. Subscribe to see more and spread the word. Welcome to the Marvy Woods Football Academy podcast. I'm joined today by a special guest, Mr. Ben Smith from MK Dons Academy, the academy manager. How are you, Ben?
Good. How are you?
Pleasure to have you here and glad you've joined me on this podcast today.
I appreciate you inviting me on. Welcome to the club.
It's a pleasure. I wanted to ask, have you ever played football in your youth for a club at all?
Grassroots. So
You
I played
did?
grassroots
Yeah.
and then played non-league as I became an adult. It was all centres of excellence and that kind of thing when I was younger back in the day. But yeah, so it was all grassroots football and then non-league football.
What non-league?
So I got to step 2 when I was a bit younger and a bit fitter and a bit more athletic, which was good. I sort of played at Chesham, played at Berkhamsted.
What position?
Centre forward. Well, I played as a 2, so we had me and another centre forward.
Yeah.
He was the big, burly, went up for all the headers. I'd just run off him.
Brilliant. So how did you basically get into the academy, like football, like coaching or how did you transition from a footballer into that?
So I started coaching at 17 and I was really, really fortunate. So I had an old PE teacher who was doing the FA tutoring at the time. That was back in the day when teachers had access to parents and doing all those bits and pieces. So he asked me, I was 17, did I fancy being a coach? So I played for the school team and he said, do you want to be a coach? And I was like, well, yeah, okay, I'm kind of quite interested in that. So he phoned my parents and he said, do you mind if I take Ben to go and do his coaching qualifications? It was the FA intermediary qualification. It was years and years and years ago. It was basically the first step in coaching. So I went along, spent 3 weeks doing that, got my first coaching badge, I suppose, by the time I was 17. I then coached a grassroots under 13s team back in Dunstable, which is where I was living with my family. And that was kind of my start into it. Off the back of that, I was then playing non-league football, a little bit of coaching. But I think we all have someone at some point who has given us an opportunity that we might never be able to say thank you for, right? And it's normally a coach or a teacher, and parents are there and they're always supportive, but they don't necessarily give you opportunities. They allow you to have opportunities by taking you here, there and everywhere and supporting you from home. But you do need some people somewhere along the line to give you something. And I've been really fortunate because I've had 2. So I've had Mr. Lewis, who's my teacher at school. And then I had a guy called Kevin, who I'm still in touch with now. He's getting on now, and so I hope he doesn't see this. And then he gave me my first opportunity to a real job coaching in football.
Oh, wow.
And that's how it all started.
And then you went from coaching the under 13s What was the thought process into like academy football or professional football? How
No, that wasn't even on the radar.
wasn't on
I really enjoyed coaching grassroots football, but you learn a huge amount of skills doing that.
Yeah.
So I was 17,
Yeah.
going into 18. I was dealing with parents, I was dealing with arranging fixtures, I was dealing with money, dealing with sorting pitches, I was dealing with nets and goalposts and all that kind of stuff, and all the parents contribute, so you're kind of grateful to them, you're managing that, you're picking a team, you're letting people down because they're not starting or they're not getting on, and you're doing all those bits and pieces. So there's a lot of responsibilities that come with that. I then got the opportunity to go out to America and coach out in America, which was an amazing experience. By that time I'd done my old level 3 certificate, which is now the UEFA B, but I did that at 18. And then
what state?
Sorry?
Where in
I
America?
was so lucky. I worked for a company called Britannia Soccer, and I coached up and down the east coast of America. And most of the coaches are all post 21 for good reason. But I went out there at 18, and I travelled up and down the east coast over about 3 months or so, and that was incredible. But then that opportunity to come back and work full time at Luton Town came around with Kevin. And that was with the Community and Schools programme. So again, it was still very much centres of excellence and the Community and Schools programme.
Right. And then so from Luton, where did you branch off to from there?
So I was at Luton for a little while. The club then got relegated and went through a tough time. We then went into the time then it was just starting to have these college programmes that were associated with non-league clubs. So we then took the programme to Barnfield College in Luton and Barton Rovers. So we had this college programme going on there. So I was coaching, I was playing, and I was having the time of my life. I was working with my mates. It was great. So there was no aspiration, or even there probably wasn't really even a career, because academies and the EPPP, it wasn't even alive then. There were academies, but there was only about 20 at the time. Not every club had an established academy. So that wasn't even on the radar. Then I did some work with the Prince's Trust at Milton Keynes College, which I really enjoyed. It's one of the best jobs I've ever had. It was excellent. And at the same time, I was doing my teaching qualification. So Milton Keynes College then put me through my teaching qualification. Mm-hmm. That's where I met my wife. So I met my wife at the college. And then I got an opportunity to go to Norwich as head of education and coach. So again, at the time, we still weren't in EPPP yet. So head of education was part-time, and my coaching was part-time. And that kind of made a full-time job. That was around 2008. No, 2009. 2009. So I was commuting from Milton Keynes to Norwich every day and staying over once or twice a week. But that was great. The club had back-to-back promotions and went into the Premier League. At that point, I left. And I had an opportunity to go to Crystal Palace, who weren't in the Premier League, they were in the Championship. But there was an opportunity to go there as head of education and coach. But the club were just looking to start a full-time education programme from under 14s. So the lads would be basically full-time with the club, and I had an opportunity to go in there and help set that up, which was a fantastic opportunity.
And so you stayed at Palace for how long?
So I was at Palace for just over 6 years, about 6 years. So I was head of education for a year, and then EPPP came in. So EPPP came in, and there was a bit of a restructure within the academy, and then I became academy manager, and then there until the end of 2016. And then I went to the EFL, and I worked for the EFL as a club support manager, so going into clubs and working with the academy managers, the club owners, sporting directors, the academy staff, and looking at how they orchestrate audits, but how do we progress them and develop them. And I did that for 6.5 years. And I've been here for 2.
So you came here from the EFL?
From the EFL, yeah.
Wow. I thought you came here from Palace.
No. So I had 6 years at the EFL, and that was brilliant. And I probably wouldn't have left had it not been for the potential of what this place offers. And that was the draw to go back into club football.
That's your hometown?
Yeah, my home club. So we've been living in the area now I've been living in the area now for almost 20 years. But my family, like my wife, the girls, they've all grown up in the Milton Keynes area. So so it's a local club and an opportunity to kind of really grab something and drive it forward.
Yeah, potentially it's got
a lot of potential to move forward. So what category is MK done?
So we're category 3. We've been category 3 for a long time. There's aspirations to move up into category 2, but that comes with, you know, lots of different implications. But we're on the way to doing that.
So what makes you category 1, 2, 3? For those who don't know, what is the process that determines what category you are?
A lot of it's down to either finance, facilities and staffing.
Okay.
They're kind of your big 3. Financially, you have to draw down a chunk of money from the leagues, but then you have to put in a substantial amount of money on top of that in order to operate the academy. So you have to have a financial obligation. The other thing is you then have to staff it accordingly. So there's rules that we're governed by to have certain amounts of staff. And it's not really just ticking a box to say, oh, we've got this amount of staff. You have to demonstrate that you go above and beyond, that, you know, you're not just doing it just to do a tick box exercise. And then the final one's facilities. So the difference between a 3 and a 2 in terms of facilities is access to artificial pitches, having a dome or an indoor arena, and then the amount of pitches and the quality of those pitches as well.
Do you think the auditing, like you said, the auditing that comes in, does it restrict you from any ideas that you have to move the academy forward?
No. I think the audit process is good. I think what's been good about the process is that they have always looked to tweak it and evolve it as it's been going on. So 2012 is when it started. We're now 12, going into 13 years since it was introduced, and it has evolved, and it will continue to evolve. If we are drawing down money, we're being given money to run academies at any level. We should be obligated to abide by certain rules and constraints. But what it also does is it gives us a set of standards to aim for. We have the choice whether we do really well in those standards, or we decide actually we don't think they're relevant to us, that's fine, but we'll be critiqued accordingly. We'll be told that, yep, you're doing that really, really well, or you're not doing that very well. That's our responsibility, I suppose, our accountability to that. But what it does do is it allows someone coming in new to our environment to say, right, this is what we're aiming to, so this is what we have to work towards. This is all the other stuff that we can do. And this is all the best practice stuff, the good practice stuff. This is all the stuff that we think makes this bit even better. And so by bringing people in and giving them this blueprint here for them to work from, and then say, actually, I'd like to do this. And because of this, can I do this? Then it kind of just draws on being innovative.
So do you think the academy system now, compared to when we were in the School of Excellence, do you think it's much better now, obviously, than back then?
Yeah, I think it's certainly in a really, really healthy place. I think you can see that with productivity. I think the young people that you see come through academies, really how they hold themselves, how educated they are, just in life skills as well as academically. I think that's in a really, really good place.
Yeah.
We're unique in this country that we have over 100 professional football clubs in this, what is really a really small, condensed area. And all of those clubs are really well supported, right, by a fan base. And the community impact that they have. If you go to some big cities across Europe, they might have 2 teams. London has 16, 17, 18 teams. The Manchester area has another 15, 16, 17 teams. Imagine if you had 2 teams in London, what that would look like. So we are incredibly fortunate that we have the programme that we have in this country.
I agree. I totally agree. Within your academy, what do you feel about the whole taking on quarter 4 or quarter 3 or quarter 2 type of player? Do you have that kind of restriction or limit within your mind?
No, we don't kind of hone in after certain quartiles. We analyse it, we see what we have.
Yeah.
I think historically a lot of clubs will all be very heavy at Q1, Q2, moving into Q3 in the early foundation phase years. But what we find is actually by the time we get to the higher end of the academy, it's more of an even playing field. It's hard though to say, actually, we're not going to take you as a Q1 because we've got too many. That wouldn't really work. But what we do need to do is we need to be eyes on all the way across. So we do need to be still recruiting at 11, 12, 13, 14 because there's ceilings, right? And there's levels that young people will get to in any area. It could be music, it could be other sports, gymnastics, tennis, swimming. There's levels, and football's no different. We will have levels to what we have in the academy. And so if we see a young person out playing grassroots that's really, really good and they come in, great. We'll see what their birthday is and then we'll see where they land within the group, but that won't be a mitigating factor whether we sign them or not.
Do you get supported a lot by the new owners in regards to the academy? How has it been working with them to help the academy move forward?
Yeah, I think from day one, they were pretty public in where the academy sits in their agenda.
Yeah.
I think priority-wise, we're somewhere on a list, but that's okay, right? Because the owners aren't here for a couple of years. The owners are here for a long period of time, and there should be sustainability within that. We're certainly developing the academy. We have some excellent staff within the academy who we need to make sure that we kind of meet their ambition as well. So there is an obligation on the club to make sure that we do that. But the investment in facilities has been pretty apparent at the training ground. We've got a development group starting next year, which is a category 3. We don't have an under-21. We've got some really good young people coming through the academy, and they just need that additional time to make that transition from under-18 to first team. So they have supported us with having this development group, staffing a development group, making sure that development group is fit for purpose, where they will then have these opportunities in a short space of time, but they just need that time to get there. It's like saying, okay, you're doing your A-levels, but actually we need you to be at degree level by the time you're 17.
Yes.
Never going to happen, you know, or you get the one anomaly who might. So you need to give them time to get their A-levels, do their A-levels, then you need to give them time to study for the degree before they're ready to pass, right? So that's what we're trying to do in a category 3 world.
The under 18s, do the boys get released?
So there are, yeah, we do releases at 18.
No, but I'm saying, how will the development
Group, they're young pros, so they're still first-year pros. However, they have this group, so they'll be with the first team or they'll be with this group. They don't have a games program because we believe in loans here. This is part of their development. So last year we had over 350 loan appearances just with our 17, 18 and 19-year-olds. There's a bit of sacrifice in terms of leagues at 16s and 18s because those second-year scholars are all out playing step 1 to 4 non-league football. That's kind of what our aim is to do that. And then as under 18s, under 19s, so that development group, their game programme, unless they're with the first team, will be playing at good level of non-league football.
That's brilliant. What does youth development mean to you?
I think, okay, so youth development, we're not just talking about football, right? So youth development is all-encompassing, right? So I think I'll go back to opportunity. So youth development is about opportunity. Someone has to see something to say, go on then, I will give you, as an adult, I will do something to help you, right? That's kind of what you need. And then you need to let them just kind of grow with that opportunity. On the other side of it, that young person has to have ambition, has to have discipline, has to be a little bit different to other people in this area, right, of football. Just as at school, you've got a science club, not everyone gets into science club, right? The best ones who perform at science get into science club. Maths club, it's the best ones who are performing at maths get into maths club. And then other opportunities arise by getting into that level of maths and science or music, right? Someone who can go and play grade 7, grade 8 piano, not everyone can do that. But as they go and they get tested, their levels get higher and higher. It's no different with what we're looking at here in youth development. So youth development is about, you know, the person, what does that person need and how are we giving it to them and their families. So there's a lot of education for parents as well about how to deal with this environment, because we can't neglect the fact that we've gone out and we have identified this young person and said, come here. And then the parents are like, okay, we'll come over there. And if we don't tell them everything that's going to come their way
Yeah.
in terms of commitment and sacrifice and the effect it might have on siblings, we're not really doing our job in that development.
Yeah. So development or results, what's more important to you?
Both. Yeah, because I think they go hand in hand. I think, you know, we are looking at the elitist environment that we can deliver, right? So whether it's Cat 3, Cat 2, Cat 1, right? We don't want to perform like a Category 3. We've got the title of Category 3, but certainly the staff, and you know some of the staff, are not Category 3 staff, right? So if we're going to create this elite environment, if we're going to create high performance, results come with that. And that isn't, you can't just, we use the word competitiveness, right? We want to be competitive, but you can't just be competitive on a Saturday or a Sunday. You have to have an environment of competitiveness. So in education, the scholars will have leaderboards for where they are with their education, and they can see it, it's visual. In the gym, there's leaderboards. You can only have one winner, right? You can only have one person who's the fastest. You can only have one person that can lift the most. But you can also be at the bottom or try not to be at the bottom, right? So your target might be an aim to be, right, just get off the bottom. Whether it be money and agility in the classroom, right? Just don't be at the bottom. That's competitive because you're not going to be, not everyone can be the most academic, but it's fine, but you can still do better than what someone's told you are. So if we create this environment and this culture of being competitive, results will happen, but also being competitive is learning to lose, right? And what you do with when you lose, or when you get a bop on the nose, or when you get injured, because these things are coming. And so how do you then overcome all these things that happen to you? So results are important, right? And that will build development because again, for the top, right? And we're trying to get people to the top. And when they leave us, which 98% of the young people that are with us at some point, whether you're 12, 18, 22, 24, Dean Lewington, who's leaving at 40, although he's working as a coach, they're going to need something. And we hope that the program that we give them gives them this competitive edge for what it looks like outside of this football club.
What's the importance of sleep to you?
Yeah, sleep's important. As important as all the other disciplines that go with it, right? So nutrition's important, sleep's important. We have our 3 principles, you know, be humble, be on time, and be prepared. They're important. It all kind of amalgamates into discipline. And there's probably more education needed on sleep. Not necessarily for young people, because young people will just fall asleep, right? Because they need it, right? They need to recover. They're growing, they're doing a lot, they're at school, they're at gymnastics, swimming, football, whatever it is they're doing, they're tired. So the education is for the young person as to how much sleep to have, right? So don't go home and sleep until midnight and then get up and be like, great, buzzing, what am I going to do now? It's midnight. Oh, where is everybody? Oh, I'll play computer games. Is to go home, have a period of a nap, and then get up, be fresh, go and have a shower, do some homework.
What does that nap do for you?
It will give you the opportunity to just have a break and have a nap when you're tired.
Yeah.
You know, because the worst feeling is when you're sitting there and you've got the old nodding dog, like your eyes are heavy and you're kind of drifting off and you try and fight it. So it's just to go with that. The education is for the parents as well. It's to say, just let them.
Yeah.
Let them go and have the sleep.
Yeah.
However, as a parent, you can go in there after 25 minutes, half an hour, whatever the period is, and say, right, you've had your sleep, now time to get up, have a shower, freshen up, and let's get on with the evening.
Yeah.
We do a lot of that, especially with the new scholars coming in, so they're about to have a pre-season like they've never had before, and they will go home and they will just crash. But the education is, fine, go home and crash, but set an alarm. That be prepared bit, right? Be prepared to set an alarm and be disciplined that you're only going to have this period of time because you're going to want to go to bed really at 10 o'clock and sleep through till whenever it is you're going to wake up. So they're the education bits. So sleep, nutrition, stretching, just being an elite athlete.
Why nutrition?
So nutrition is, listen, it's easy to walk into a takeaway shop, right? It's easy to do that. And I think another thing with academy football is, as parents, you pick up from school, you go training, you sit, you wait, you then pick up, or you know, they then come out and they get back in the car. You still got homework to do. You've still got, parents still might have work to do, emails, catching up with the work that they've missed because they've had to leave work early to do that. So it's really easy to get a quick solution to food, right? Whether that be something at home that you just chuck in the oven, or it's something that you drive past and you drive in and you get something and you eat that way. Same for the sibling. You know, I mentioned sibling earlier. The sibling gets dragged around, right? And that's hard. So the nutrition education is really important. How do you get quick fixes? We've got a personal development program for the COYD phase of things up, really, where part of that is that responsibility of cooking and preparing. It's identifying, right, so if I've got school the next day and then I've got training in the evening, the day before, what am I doing to prepare for this big day here? And it might be, right, I'm going to cook myself some pasta, or I'm going to do myself some food, I'm going to pack it all up. I'm going to take that responsibility on. I'm going to be educated on that. So I'm going to do that. And then when I leave school, it's already there ready. Or when I finish training, it's already there ready. So there's bits that we can kind of put on the young person, which again, your question about youth development, what is it? It's that. It's getting them ready for what the real world looks like as well, right?
So does nutrition affect performance?
I think as we go through the age groups, especially with the probably 16s up, we see a real change.
What is that change?
The change of the importance of healthy nutrition and them seeing the performances that can come from it. I think there's also a body image thing. The lads like to look a little bit bigger and leaner and those bits and pieces, but I do think they see the benefit of it, because you know what we have here with the accelerated pathway is that the lads will have opportunities to go and train with the first team regularly. And that's a tough transition. So from playing against 17 and 18-year-olds who are the same age as you, with men, right, and they don't really care that you're 17, because if you're up there, you deserve to be up there. So it's physical, it's tough, you know, it's hard.
So you have to look after your body,
You've
basically.
got to look after your body. But that's not just, again, it's not just nutrition, it's not just sleep, it's the stretching, it's the gym. Don't not do gym. Right? But then don't go and do more gym off your own back because you think it's the right thing to do, because you'll be working on the wrong things or you go through fatigue. Yeah. And that's when you get injured. So there's a real discipline to be an elite, a real discipline. And they're the levels, okay? We go back to levels again. You know, you can have the most talented young person, and I can give you dozens of names over the last 20 years of young people that you think, wow, yeah, they're going to do it, and they don't. Because they don't have the discipline.
What is being elite?
What is being elite? Being humble, it's being on time, and it's being prepared. I'm going to bore you now, but they're the three principles, right? They're the three biggest things. And we have our competency program. So our competency program, we have 10 competencies, and we drip that in through the different age groups. The principles, they're your behaviours. That's the stuff that you can be really good at. You know, you can be humble. You have a choice. You have a choice to be on time, and you have a choice to be prepared. And we don't, you know, we do a lot of talking with the parents around, this isn't a football thing. This is a school, at home, with your family, with your friends thing. Be on time for school. Be on time with your homework. Get up on time, right? Almost all of them have a phone or access to an alarm clock. Stop waiting for your parents to get you up in the morning. That's your responsibility. You can do that. You know, Stephen, our head of coaching, he's got a lovely phrase where he says, there's things that you don't need money to be the best at. So we can be the best, regardless of our league status, our category status, the finances that we have or we don't have. We can be the best at being on time.
Why is timing important, or being on time important to you?
I think it's just important just in general. You know, if you've got deadlines to meet, right? So if you've got a deadline to meet and you miss it, someone's coming after you. Or if they're not coming after you, you're going to miss out on something. So that's important. It's an element of respect.
In relation to football?
In relation to anything. So again, if your son doesn't hand his homework in on time, what happens at school?
Yeah, he gets punished.
Gets punished. So there's an element of respect.
Yeah.
The teachers asked me to hand my homework in on time. Well, I've got to do that. Yeah, but I've got training 3 times a week and everything. Okay, well, you've got to find time to do your homework because that's important.
Yeah.
Getting up on time, attending meetings on time. They're big things. And as you get older and you forget football, but just as you get older, being on time becomes more and more important. So they're like I said, they're behaviours.
Yeah.
You know, they're things that we can be the best at, or the young people can be the best at, regardless of what football club they're at.
How many days a week do you train and play?
Me?
Yeah, you.
Train loads, yeah.
I'm always training.
So the foundation phase, youth development phase are 3 times a week, and then games at the weekend. The scholars are 4 days training, day and a half education, and games at the weekend. To be fair to them, in the programme that we have, the second years, certainly the last couple of years, the second years, they have their loans programme. So they could be playing Tuesday night, Saturday, training Thursday night, as well as the obligations of the club as well.
Have you seen boys go out on loan and let's say potentially they go out on loan and they're really good before they go out on loan, and then they come back, something changes,
Yeah, so
maybe negatively.
yeah, but that's part of our learning, right? So that's why we do the loans program. Isn't just go out and play and be brilliant and then you'll have a career. It's let's test them now, because the loans give us so much, and we're so grateful for the clubs that we have these relationships with, because they help us help that young person.
What are some of the negatives that you've seen?
I haven't really seen any negatives. Now, the players will tell you there's negatives,
Yes.
and the parents will tell you there's negatives.
Yes.
So, as an example, we've got a lad who's got his pro contract now. Under 18s wasn't doing it for him. It was good, and so the loans program at 17 was great for him. So he went out and played good levels of non-league football, and then we moved him from one and we put him at a really good non-league club, knowing that he wasn't going to play.
Right.
A lot of football. He was going to be on the bench,
Right.
and he was going to play 10 minutes, 15 minutes, no minutes.
As a test.
As a test. And one was, can you get into the team? But also, it's what's your attitude now when you come back? And he's brilliant, right? And he's come back and he's gone, oh, I'm not playing, I think I should leave. And I had the biggest smile. And I was like, this could be your career for the next 2 years. If you get into the first team squad as an 18-year-old, your next 2 years could be being a sub and having an impact off the bench, and you get a game here or there, but you're a squad player. And then as you get older and you start getting better, then you work your way into the team and you become a regular. But I need to know whether you can do this bit, because if I'm going to champion you and I'm going to hand you over to a professional environment, I need to know that you can be that team player. You can be the player that will do the running after a game because you haven't played enough minutes. You're the one who, in a win, you'll celebrate with the rest of the team rather than, I wasn't part of that, so I'm going to come over here. Because if that's the attitude, you're not going to survive over here. You'll be found out very, very quickly. And we can't do that as an academy, right? Because if he's not playing for the under 18s, it's okay. So we don't get to test that. And the loans program gives us that. The loan program gives us, can they get to places on time, right? Because they could be playing anywhere, like around the country. What's their attitude like at training? Because they're coming from a professional football club into a non-league environment. Are they going in there, yeah, exactly, puffing up their chest, I don't really need to be here, blah, blah, or are they, now come on in, I'm here now,
Yeah.
I want to be part of this. Are they introducing themselves to the rest of the team that moment they go into that change room for the first time on their own? Are they able to mix and socialise and do that part of the game as well? Because their career could take them anywhere, like around the country, around Europe, anywhere. And you have to be able to have those skills as well. The competitive environment of a loan is hard. We can't give them that in under 18 football because, yes, we have a league, but it's not a league that we aim to kind of win every year or anything like that. Yeah. So they don't really feel.
So it's more
how
than performance, it's about character.
100%. And principles. And as I said, I'm going to bore you with it, right?
No.
But it's so important because that's what sustains a career in anything, right? Not just football, but in anything. You have to be sustainable. You have to be able to take a couple of punches on the nose and then learn to dodge and weave, right? And mitigate through those.
Do you guys do academy tours?
No, we haven't done them since I've been here. I don't think they were doing them too much before. It's something that's on our agenda. It's something we do a Parent Voice, and that's been raised in Parent Voice. Our head of player care is putting together like a tour strategy of different phases, what kind of tours they would have. It's hard because we're not in a position where we can fund the tours ourselves. There's this underlying, could everybody go on tour if we put a tour on? There's some families who might not be able to afford it and so on, and you don't want those young people to miss out on this opportunity of a tour if they can't afford it. So we've broached it with the parents, and we've said, look, if we overcharge a little bit, that could help the families who can't necessarily afford it. So we've been working on that probably for the last 6 or 7 months to roll out next season.
Do you guys play showcase academies here?
Yeah, we play showcase academies during the holidays.
What's your thoughts on showcase academies?
I think there's some really, really good ones. I think there's some really well-run, professional showcase academies. I think they do it for the right reasons. They're competitive as well. They're really good. We've had experiences of showcase academies that aren't pretty savoury, and we've had information where they're charging extra to play against a professional football club, and that doesn't sit well with us. Right. And so we make a point, if we hear about that we don't tolerate that.
So the good ones, what's your thoughts on the managers, the good showcase managers? I look at some of these guys and I think to myself, like, they have such an eye for talent, like to be able to spot and put all these kids on their own, basically, without, I'm not saying a staff, but to gather all these boys together. What's your take on those kind of guys? Yeah,
it's regional, so you won't have too many lads travelling from an hour and a half to go to these showcase academies. So they are very much regional and they manufacture that way.
Yeah.
Listen, with organised training and a structure, you can harbour talent, right? That's time and effort. There's good singers, good performers are good, right? You just then have to fine-tune little bits and pieces to get a little bit more out of them.
In your experience, seeing players come to the club on trial, what difference do you see between the academy level boys and the grassroots level boys? What is the thing that you see that, let's say, the grassroots level boy does not quite make it here?
Yeah, I think for the ones that have been in the academies, depending on the level of grassroots, right? So there's loads of different levels. There's levels, like you say, the showcase ones who might train 2 or 3 times a week, have access to good facilities, good equipment, good resources, that kind of stuff, good games program. We'll have lads who come in who train for an hour a week with their grassroots team, but they've demonstrated something on a game day that our recruitment team have been to see that goes, that's nice, we like that, and can we maybe see a little bit more? Technically, I suppose, that there'll be some disparities, a little bit of game understanding, perhaps. The trialist that comes from grassroots hasn't necessarily been academied, if you like. So they have this kind of different type of hunger and desire and want to show. But what I like about trialists sometimes is that they come in as a centre midfielder or whatever, and you think, I don't think you're that. But I think you could be this and this. And then you're looking at, okay, well, how open are you as a young person, depending on your age, right? And how open are your parents to that? Because again, there might be this, oh, we hadn't seen that, or nope, he's this. I think one of the things that we've had over recent years is I'm a cam or I'm a CDM, and we'd just rather you be a midfielder, and then we'll see where that lies.
How do you deal with that kind of, so for example, if somebody comes in as a cam and you see them, well, I think you're more of an attacker.
Right back.
Or right back or a left.
Goalkeeper.
Yeah, I know that one. And there's a kind of hesitation, maybe even from the player, or maybe not from the player, but you get the parent knocking on the door and going, what are you doing? How do you deal with that?
But I think, again, it's through dialogue, right? So it's through communication. Rather than someone coming in and then just not having any kind of communication, you're on trial for a period of time, right? So there's opportunities to identify areas to say, right, actually, let's have a conversation here, or in this game, let's have 40 minutes in that position, 20 minutes in that position, and we'll rotate around, but then we'll kind of give some guidance and clarification as to why we're doing it, especially at younger ages, because it's 7v7, it's 9v9, you can play around a little bit with that. Even at 11, at things and things, it's easy to change a little bit and see where they might land. But again, I do think it is about just having chats and conversation.
Is there a specific profile that you like at MK Dons for your academy?
We're going through a little bit of a review of what all of that looks like at the moment. We sit down as a full group of staff once a month, and we look at every single young person in our academy, from 9s all the way through to 18s, and we talk about each individual, and we then try and fill gaps, or we look at where opportunities might come for either people within the academy to change position or to recruit from outside and bring in. In answer to your question, no. I think historically it's always been about technique, and we're moving away from some of that to look at, okay, well, how do we protect? So if we've got some excellent technical players, we're physically not competitive, then we need to protect these really technical players with some physical power that allow them to get on the ball a bit more, get on the ball in certain areas of the pitch, which will highlight their strengths.
What do you look for in a scholar compared to an academy player? So they're bridging the gap to go into like being a scholar, and you're like, they're not quite there yet. What is that thing that you look for in a scholar that an academy player needs?
So I think that there's a couple of bits probably from things up rather than just a scholar, but we'll look at scholars. So self-control is one, and that's one of our competencies. And I think the biggest...
In what way?
So self-control in terms of understanding the situation you're in, understanding who you're with, understanding the opportunities that you have, and then having control over the discipline of sleep, nutrition, effort, commitment, all those bits and pieces. There's an element of self-control on that, and I think as you get older, you're more accountable for your own self-control.
You can spot that.
Yeah, because you're learning to drive, right?
Yeah.
So there's an element of self-control on that. You're getting paid. So as a scholar, you're on an apprenticeship, so there's money now coming into your bank account. So there are more elements of becoming an adult and that self-control that's required for that. But then I think the biggest one is self-awareness, and that's our first competency really, from 9 all the way through. And it's having that awareness of where I am as an individual. Forget where I am in the group, because at scholar it's more position specific. You know, we're only really going to have 2 or 3 centre forwards. We're only going to have 2 right backs. We're only going to have 2 goalkeepers, 4 centre halves, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that self-awareness of where am I? How good am I? What have I got above me that I've got to try and compete with? Also, what's coming up behind? Who's this under 16 who keeps playing in the under 18s? Who's this under 15 that keeps on pushing up? So there's this element of self-awareness and how I'm really doing, and the feedback that they get from other influences from outside the football club. So yeah, I think self-awareness is a huge competency to have. And as staff, we also need to have self-awareness and the honesty that we feed back to parents. So even at 18s, we'll talk to the parents. Even at 19s, we still talk to the parents. You know, even though they're professionals, we'll still, especially with the loans program and things like that, we try and keep them involved in those bits.
Do difficult parents influence your decisions on a player?
No. I think there was a time, and I think this is my learning as well, is that when I've been in previous roles, sometimes it could, and agents would influence you a little bit as well. The naivety, I suppose, of being a younger academy manager back then to where I am now, you would kind of look at that and for positive and for negative, but not now. Now it's right, okay, well, let's be an adult here, let's be grown up. Use the people that we have in the academy, which I've said are some really, really good ones. So I use those staff and we bounce ideas off each other, and then I get opinions from others, and then we kind of come to a decision.
Schools, how do you look at school reports? What and why?
Yeah, so we use school reports just to see how they're doing away from the football club. Like I said, we still like to see those competencies and those principles away from the football club. We have a monthly newsletter where we ask parents to contribute to that newsletter to tell us about things that are going on outside the football club in terms of what they're achieving away from here. The school reports allow us to offer support where we need to. Our head of education, our head of player care have been into schools to support the young person, to support the school, because there's different reasons why we might go into a school. Some of them might be behaviour, some of them might be academic progress and not really achieving what they potentially could, which becomes a habit, right? And that's a point we try and make, is that if you think that you can cut corners here, that will become a habit, and you'll think you can cut corners over here. The bar just gets higher here, and we can't change the grade in the academy. If you're underachieving at school and the school, for whatever reason, think, okay, you're working towards a 7, so we're going to change, you're going to work towards a 6 now because that's achievable. We can't do that here. We can't say, well, this is kind of where we needed to get to, but I tell you what, you can get a pro if you get to here. It doesn't work. The bar's going that way. We use it for that, and we also use it for recruitment. So when we're looking to bring young people into the academy, we'll contact the schools, especially in the older age groups. We'll look at what their report says about them as a person.
So not their exam results,
Not their exam results,
behaviour.
it'll be their behaviours and their contributions to class or to the school environment, because we want good learners, not academic. Look, we just want good learners who can take on information, because we are in an environment where information gets chucked out, and you've got to be able to take that information on, and you've then got to be able to execute quite quickly. If you're telling someone 2, 3, 4 times, the chances are they're probably not going to get it. And that's okay, right? It's just that this environment might not be the right environment. But that's all right. We need the people that are going to, yep, got it, no problem, I'll go and execute that.
Okay.
Whether it be on the pitch, off the pitch, like I said, in our college and in our work that we do here academically, we have tables that go up on the wall, and the boys can see where they are, and that then breeds another bit of competitive. Oh, I want to finish first. And our first year scholar group wanted to finish their education before the second year scholar group finished their education. That's nice.
Do you speak to the first team manager a lot about like the boys in the academy? Do you guys discuss like who's good, who do you think's coming through? How's your relationship in that?
Yeah, so I've had a few managers since I've been here, but every single one I've had really nice relationships with, as have other senior members of the academy team, whether it be coaches, heads of coaching. We've got a good link with the medical department as well. So there's this kind of synergy that runs through. The relationship I have with the sporting director is particularly strong. So we meet monthly, not just me and him, but head of coaching, under 18s, coaches as well. And we talk about the better young players in the accelerated pathway, what it looks like for them. So that is always there. And we're able to then meet 2 or 3 times during the week, just informally, and how's he getting on, how's he getting on? I saw he was up with the first team. And that's how those messages translate, which I think is really quite powerful, and that's helped with some of the successes that we've had in the last 2 years.
So you said earlier about looking at players who you thought this kid can really go somewhere, and then it doesn't happen because of discipline. What is that lack of discipline that you've seen potentially good players throw everything away because of a certain discipline or lack of?
Yeah, I don't think, to say they've thrown it away, they haven't. No, yeah, I know, but I think that awareness piece. If you're 17, and we do a talk and an education piece on agents and influences from outside the academy, and much like the showcase academies that you spoke about, there's some really good ones, and there's some ones that probably aren't as good as the better ones, and that's the same with some agents. And families and young people sometimes like that as a bit of a tag to go into the change room and say, oh, I've got an agent, got the boots and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Whereas really that hasn't really helped them. So there's an education piece that we keep doing that.
So do you see that as a big distraction?
Can be. Yeah, it can be, because it's that badge, right? It's that I've got an agent, or these people are telling me I'm doing really well over here, or I've had some posts on social media that have got loads of likes and that kind of stuff. The PFA really help academies with that, right? So the PFA are brilliant. They come in, they talk to the parents, they talk to young people, the players, whether they be in the PDP or even at younger age groups, they'll talk to the parents there as well. And I think that we lose some potential players because of this, I know, ego, which is okay to have an ego, and it's the same in any industry, right? So if you look at any high-performing area,
that's where your humble thing comes in.
that's where the humble thing comes in,
yeah.
And that self-awareness piece comes in, right? So it's all interlinks, right? Everything, like, there's the reason behind why we do everything. But that piece about, am I really there yet? No, I'm not.
So is that the ego you're talking about?
Yeah, and it's that entitlement of, well, he's training with the first team, why aren't I training with the first team? Well, because you're not as good as him, or you haven't displayed the principles like he has, or because you don't even play in the same position as he does, and they needed a midfielder and you're a left back. It's that awareness piece of, okay, I know why he's done that. Actually, I probably need to tweak a little bit on this. I need to probably do a little bit better at this. Can I have some help? Right, and then that ego thing kind of gets pushed to one side a little bit. That entitlement gets pushed to one side a little bit, because we're trying to create these good people, right? These people that are selectable, these people that are likable. And when you're likable, people give you chances. If you have this ego and you walk around with this entitlement, you probably get less chances.
Agreed. Agreed. Data in football, what's your take on that? Like apps like Kitman Labs and all that. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I think it's a good place for storing good stuff, I suppose, is the best way I can describe it, because there's a huge amount that you could go into, loads, and you could almost be bombarded with it. I think unless you've got people that either buy into the data or are able to disseminate the data that allows you to improve the young person or your department or your delivery as a coach or whatever it looks like, don't do it, because what you're doing it for otherwise. Obviously, video analysis is big. Players really kind of jump on that. We're trying to do a piece now where there's a little bit of accountability more on the player than it is on the staff, because rather than just be handed your clips and then you go away and you look at all your good bits and they're the bits you put on social media. There's a bit around, why have we clipped this? Why are you clipping that bit? What do you see from that? And we kind of like want to try and focus our lens on that. Head of coaching is doing a big piece around coach development through analysis and some more data going into the coach development side, and which is really exciting and really interesting. But yeah, I think unless you've got the staff to really get into the information, I don't know what you do it for, other than ticking a box, which comes back to the standards, right? At the very, very beginning, like we were talking about PJAC and standards and so on. It's like there has to be a why if you're going to invest in something.
So with your development centres, do you have any targets for a certain amount of numbers that you bring through yearly?
We don't have development centres. Okay. So, no. So we have...
I thought the MK Dons set was like...
Well, the set, which is the charity arm or the community arm of the club.
Okay.
And they have a centre of excellence and they have an advanced centre.
Right.
And then we have our recruitment team that go out and recruit at Grassroots as well. But we don't have set development centres that kind of operate as feeders direct into the academy.
So, on to you, Ben. On a day-to-day basis, like, what do you do?
What a question.
What do you do on a day-to-day basis that the average eye doesn't see? So you go home and you're like, I pulled a string there, I've done this, I've done that. If they remove me out of there, they would know that's, do you know what I mean? Like, yeah. That's what I've done, or that's what I haven't done.
What do? I fill the office with sweets.
No, I just want to know your role,
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of the role, right? The beauty of the role is that there is no set agenda. I mean, there are things that we always work towards, and I always work towards. So we have, weekly meetings that are multidisciplinary. So every phase has a meeting each week. We have an operational meeting. I'll meet with sporting director or head of football operations. Off the back of those will all come outcomes. So there's actions that need to be done off the back of that. Facilities is a big thing of trying to make sure that the facilities are kept up to date, and we're kind of all right with those. We have monthly profile meetings. Off the back of that come outcomes. We have the loans program. So I'm talking to non-league teams, managers, owners of those non-league football clubs, creating opportunities for young people, speaking to the agents, making sure they're aligned. Finance, budgets, working on budgets monthly to make sure that we're, one, on target, but also I've got to try and push a little bit for things as well that make us better. Staffing we've been quite good with, so we don't really lose staff, but we try and bring more staff in. So there's looking at that side of it as well. So it's busy, but that's the beauty of the role, is that you're always busy. There's always something like the development group. The development group hasn't just been something that we've come up with in the last 4 weeks because we had some good players coming through. The development group's been about 12 months in the making of these regular meetings of, right, okay, what does it look like? Who do we need? What's the staffing? What facilities do we need? What does the games program look like? What kind of structures do we need in terms of the games loans program, all that kind of stuff. So there's so many things that bubble away. Plus then you've got weekend games, right? So you're watching games at the weekend. I'm watching loan games at the weekend. I'm watching loan games midweek. You're watching the Sunday games. You're watching the under-18s games. Training going on in the evening. So it's all encompassing. But I think I can get away with saying that my wife's okay with most of it. There are times where you're away. I suppose those sacrifices were more when I was at Norwich and Palace, because I was doing the commute from Milton Keynes to Norwich and Milton Keynes to Palace. But now it's a little bit better.
Do you enjoy it?
Love it.
Love it.
Love it. I came back into the club environment because there's a project here, and it's a really exciting project. And this was under the old ownership group. Now we've got the new ownership group. There's probably a little bit more that can be done. But I love it. I love the people that I work with. I want them to kind of thrive as well, because they deserve to work in a place that allows them to fulfill their potential, because their ceilings are high, and I want them to achieve that as well.
Do you judge your coaches on development or results?
No, so we looked at competitiveness, like I said earlier. Like we looked at this at the end of last year. So we did a big review at the end of the year, and we looked at our productivity, which historically hasn't been particularly great over the last probably 3 to 6 years. And we looked at how do we improve that, and competitiveness kind of came out as on top. So we do have a focus on some winning weeks and looking at how do we get wins, how do we allow the coaches to make tough decisions of style of play, or how do we close out a game, or how do we chase a game, how do we do that, because that's as much coach development as it is player development, right? Don't think there's anyone involved in any kind of sport that doesn't like to win. Right? Everyone likes to win. So it's allowing them the opportunity to do that. It's allowing some of the conversations that will come out from going after a few wins. Why did he only play 20 minutes? Why didn't he play in his position? Why, all those bits and pieces that can come out of it. Also, you might see something really nice, right? You're going to give that young person or that team the opportunity to score a winning goal in the last minute, or to save a penalty in the last few minutes, or to make a block. And that feeling that young person gets, you can't replicate. But it's important, because now you can use that feeling to say, right, how would you feel now if you went from a grade 5 to a grade 6? Right, it's that emotion and that kind of transferable skill across. So yeah, it's important to have that, because when they cross the line and they go into professional football, when they go to a loan club, no one's going to turn around to them and say, don't worry about that, don't worry about it. They're not. And if we think they are, we are feeding them wrong information, and we're not educating them properly for what it really looks like. So we have to kind of get that balance and be okay with it.
Yeah.
Right? We have to be okay with competitiveness not being a dirty word. Right? It's an okay word. It's okay to be competitive. And it's okay if you don't get to that level at that time. It's all right.
Agreed. What's your idea of a model pro? What do you think you need to be pro? Because you're working these kids to become a pro. So
Yeah.
what does that look like in your mind?
So I'll go back to our competencies of resilience is part of that. You know, you have to be resilient. You have to kind of take those little bops that come along. You have to be accountable. You have to have the discipline. Boy, I'm going to ask you, what are the 3 ones that you have to have? Go on, what do you have to be? Now go on, what are the 3 principles?
I think mentally strong,
Yeah.
obviously technically gifted, and be prepared to make sacrifices.
Okay, so prepared, right? On time, humble, right? All those bits and pieces.
Yeah.
But I'm going to disagree with you on one. You don't have to be technically brilliant. I think if your attitude is excellent and you can demonstrate to the person who is offering you the contract, manager, sporting director, whoever it is, that you can be reliable, that you can be disciplined, because your job on a team might be just to break stuff up. It might be just to be brilliant around the changing room, be a really good leader, be a really good teammate. And that can get you a career. Right? You can have 15, 20 years as that person.
So sometimes even your skill is not taken into account. It's just that.
But your skill might be power, pace.
Yeah.
Technically, you might not be the
No,
best.
I'm saying you've just said about being like around the change rooms and
Yeah.
stuff. Like, so that's taken into account.
100%, absolutely, especially in my changing room. Because as staff, we're not in the changing rooms. Even at first team level, the manager, the coaches, they're not in the changing room during the week. That's player-led. So you need some good people in the changing room that can identify when someone is not doing things right, or they can identify a problem and be, right, I'm either going to now make sure that you're behaving properly, or I'm going to say, are you all right? Do you need a chat? Do you need let's go and have a walk? Or listen, let's go and speak to the staff because you don't look right.
And you can see that in someone.
Good leaders can, yeah. Absolutely. And I think you need those people in the change room. And managers need those people in the change room because you train for maybe 10 or 12 hours a week on the grass. That's it. So all the rest of that time that fill your day, who's leading those people? Who's leading that scholarship group? Who's leading that first team group? Who's leading the development group? Because it can't be the staff all the time. And again, that comes back to levels, right? So you could be selected on those behaviours, 100%. Because you might help that really 10 out of 10 player get across the line.
Yeah. That's very interesting to hear that. Final 4 questions.
Right. Final 4, wow. Brilliant. Pass.
What qualities do you need to be a good academy player,
Yeah.
a good academy scout, good academy coach, and a good academy manager?
Okay, first one. So what qualities for a player? Okay, I'm not going to say be humble, be on time, be fair, right? Because they're given, right? So we are fully established. That's what they are. Okay, to be a player, be resilient and be self-aware. So be resilient to the knocks that you're going to get. You might get injured, you might miss out on time, you might not start every game. You will have bad games, you will have bad training sessions. A coach is going to critique you. The coach is going to tell you something that you're not very good at. That's okay. We're going to play in front of 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, whatever it is. You're going to play in front of parents of the opposition, and they're going to have a little pop at you. Other players are going to have a pop at you. Be resilient, and then use people around you to help you with that, because you can't deal with it on your own. So if you feel emotional, if you feel angry, if you feel sad, if you feel upset, go and speak to somebody. And don't bottle it all in, but understand that that's coming your way, which is no different to any other sport. If you go and speak to a kid that's doing gymnastics, if you go and speak to a kid that's doing tennis or anything like that, it's still the same. It's still the same.
Agreed. Scout.
Be resilient. And I say that because I don't know how scouts operate the way they do. I think they're incredible. To go out and watch game after game after game in all weathers and not see someone that you think is good enough to come across into an academy, at any category of academy, I think is tough, right? So you have to go again, and you have to go again, and you have to go again. And you have to build the relationships with those teams. And when you identify someone, it can be very easy to get carried away and think, great, I've got one, he's in the academy, done. And then the coaches or sports science or whoever turn around and say, he was okay, but he's probably not good enough. And then I've got to go again. So that resilience is really key. And I think having that communication with the other grassroots clubs, with the club as well, I think, again, recruitment can be hard because you're not always in the club, right? As recruitment, you're out at games, you're not often seen. You're on the end of an email, things like that. So it's those bits and pieces that I think are really important for a scout.
Academy coach?
Be honest. So be honest when you're giving feedback. You know, it's hard to give feedback that doesn't sit well or you don't think is going to be taken pretty well. So there's a skill to that. So if you're a coach and you're not comfortable with that, don't do it. Get someone else to be there with you that can help deliver that message, I think is one. Being prepared for your session, be prepared for who you've got, really care about what you're doing, because go back to my old PE teacher, right, Mr. Lewis and Kevin, they had influences on me that they probably didn't. Really? They were just doing it, right? They were doing it because it was the right thing to do, but they had a really strong influence. They're people that I remember now, many, many, many years after them having that initial influence. And I think anyone who works in youth development, whether it be sports or whatever it is in schools, they all have that opportunity to be that person. And I think as a coach, you have such an amazing opportunity to be that person for someone who may never thank you, right? They might not even realise till they're 30, 35. And by then, they don't even know where you are, what you're doing, or anything like that. But they will talk about you to their friends and family. Oh, I had this coach and he was brilliant and didn't keep me on and everything else, but he was brilliant. He taught me this and he taught me that. And I think those things are really, really valuable. Coaches are good, right? They work in academies because they're good coaches. They can put on a session, but it's that real kind of human element that I think really makes a good coach good.
Academy manager?
What qualities you need to have an academy manager? I think you have to love what you do. You have to love what you do. You have to bring people along with you and use people as well. You can't do this on your own. So using the staff around you and using all their skills, because we have so many different departments, right, that they are really good and experts in their area. So use them. And it makes your job a lot easier. And just try and have some fun with it, right? We're so fortunate that football is as big as it is in this country, that there's loads of jobs. Right? You get to do a podcast because there's so much football in the country, right? If we only had 10 academies in the country, you'd have a pretty small podcast, yeah. Right? But you have the opportunity to do much more than that because of what we have. And you've got to love what you do, right? You've got to love what you do, and I think you can get too caught up with all the other stuff, right? And if you kind of focus on, I've got to get a player out there, that's great when it happens, but the chances are really small because the percentages are small. So just love what you're doing and enjoy it.
Is there anything that I haven't covered that you'd like to say?
Budget.
I purposely stayed away from that.
All right, as a parent, I'm going to ask you a question then. As a parent of someone in an academy, what do you want from the academy? And I appreciate that your son is in an academy, right? So you've got to be careful about but what, as a parent, what would you want?
I think that not just at that academy, I think at academies in general, I think there needs to maybe be more communication between clubs and parents. I also think, for example, if you're a trialist, I've seen it everywhere I've been around. The stress of what they think of have they said anything? No, they haven't said anything. And I think it's like, what week are we in? We're in the 6th week. Have they said anything to you? No. I think that the pressure and the stress of, I don't know if it's purposely done or if it's just a communication to say, you're going all right, or maybe he needs to pick it up to this. I think there's a lack of communication around the board when it comes to trialists. I don't know if it's just because clubs feel that they're not part of the academy system yet, but I do see a lot of trialist parents just losing it. Or if the coach, because there's not been any communication. If a coach calls their son on the side of, like, there's a game, and the coach says, "Oh, Timmy, you're meant to be running down the wing." Does that mean, is he in? Is he gone? Is he? Any little critique turns into Timmy gets in the car and Timmy gets told, you need to be doing this, you need to. So I think maybe there needs to be some form of, even if it's not communication, like maybe a report or something, just to inform those parents that I've been told as well, can you please say that to them, to talk to the trialists a bit more? So I'm saying it for those parents.
And that's a great point, right? Because go back to what Stephen said, I had a coaching. Any club could be the best at that, because that doesn't take money.
Yeah.
It doesn't take category status. That is just a time thing, right? And every academy has the opportunity to create that time. So yeah, I think that's not a finance thing.
Because you brought the kid in. There's something you've seen. And if you brought the kid in and you really want the kid to kick on at the club, if you just have that little, I don't know, the second, third week and say, look, if Tommy runs down that wing a bit more, there's a good chance here. Just gonna leave that with you, you know? But if you don't say nothing and it reaches the 8th week and then it's like, right, we're gonna sit down and have a review. Sorry, you're not quite. It's like, whoa, you've just, but I thought he was better than da-da-da-da, and there's not been that much communication, and those came in with black hair and left with grey hair in those 8 weeks because there's not been no communication at all. So I think that's the only thing I would say clubs should improve on, the communication with parents in regards to trialist parents.
Yeah, good point.
That's it. Thank you for your time. Thank you for for giving me
Really
your time.
enjoyed it.
Brilliant. Thank you guys for joining me on this episode, and I hope to see you on the next episode. Take care.
This episode is sponsored by the PV Consultant, the go-to business strategist for salon owners and solo beauty professionals who want to grow smarter, not harder. If you're ready to boost your visibility and start attracting more clients today, download the PV Consultant's free Google cheat sheet at www.thepvconsultant.net/cheat sheet. It's packed with simple, powerful tips to get your business seen by the right people. A big thank you to the PV Consultant for supporting today's episode and helping more businesses shine.